Gaming is funny because it's hard to get a franchise going, but once you do, you're mostly set. There are many proud franchises out there who survived a stinker. Or two. It's actually kind of hard to end a successful franchise because people want to like your games. The same is true for movies, which makes Marvel weird.
If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels.
It's weird that Marvel would have not one, but 2 separate franchises ruined with a single entry. Today, I want to talk about a game that dropped the ball so badly, that made its fans so upset, that it killed a 20-year franchise. The Marvel vs. Capcom series has a long and proud history, going back almost 30 years. Crossover games were brand new at the time. You have Marvel heroes fighting against everyone's favorite Capcom characters, like Ryu, Mega Man, Captain Commando. This crossover thing worked well, and it was really cool. So cool that Capcom spammed it for a minute. We had multiple Marvel vs. Capcom games. We have Capcom vs. SNK. If you're not familiar, nowadays they just call this Street Fighter 6. Who can imagine having A-list heroes in the same game as A-list video game characters? Dude, people's brains would have exploded if they could see Fortnite. These crossover games are a delicate balance. They're hard to get made because unlike a normal game, you have a whole other set of suits that have to approve everything. Like if Capcom wants to use a character from their games, they just have to get internal approval. But for Marvel characters, they gotta do a whole other process of talking back and forth. If they're lucky, they can just look at the Marvel characters that would work good and pick from those. This Magneto guy, it looked like he could do some cool combos and he can fly. It would be a shame if we couldn't use him because of some other random company. It goes the other way too. It never made sense to me that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has 2 Wolverines. Literally, look at this and tell me that you can tell the difference. And don't lie now. So we got the Bone Claw version and the regular version. Turns out they wanted to do the Bone Claw version, then the Marvel suits called up, they gotta put normal Wolverine in the game. So now they have 2 in the game. It's a miracle that these games ever got made. Now, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, pretty popular game, but had some weird distribution stuff. It was basically impossible to get after a point because they didn't print that many copies for PS2 and Xbox because they didn't have the license anymore. It was also on Dreamcast, but I mean, who had a Dreamcast? Who wanted a Dreamcast? It looked like it was probably going to be the end of the series. Capcom stopped doing so many crossovers, but that was okay. People still love playing 2, and we don't have time to go into it, but Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was hype. Then, out of nowhere, we get a new one announced, and man's lost it. I mean, look at this game. This is an Xbox 360 game. It's 14 years old, and it still looks good. This game was inspired, and it came out at just the right time, just after fighting games were resuscitated. There's this whole era that we don't need to go into where the whole genre was dying off. Street Fighter 4 was the CPR, and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was the flip. This game is hype. The roster makes a lot more sense than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I mean, at least today it does. We'll get to that. With a lot more modern characters on both sides. We got a bunch of Capcom characters that I swear were more relevant at the time. People at one point knew about and cared about Beautiful Joe and Spencer. And Amaterasu. On the Marvel side, it looks like most of the usual suspects. People were excited to see new faces like Deadpool. I mean, he still hadn't crossed over into like peak annoying yet. And there were still some deeper pulls like X-23 and Taskmaster. Although if you keep up with the MCU, you probably recognize all of these characters. Still, shout out to the character designs in this game. They really cooked. Look, if you follow Marvel 3, you're probably sick of Phoenix, but she is still maybe the coolest character design I've seen in a fighting game. You can play her normally, but she kind of sucks. She has good moves, but the lowest health in the game by far. However, if you die with her at full meter, you get...
I can't control it!
And now you have a boss character. Not a boss character after they join your party, but an actual boss character. You can tell that a lot of love and care went into designing this game. Now, it would be a shame if a cool design like Phoenix was never able to return because of licensing issues in a whole other industry. That would really suck. Now, this was a slightly unhinged time in gaming. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out in February of 2011, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out in November of 2011. The new version added new characters, and the ones I want to focus on are the Marvel characters. The new characters they added were Doctor Strange, Nova, Ghost Rider, Hawkeye, Iron Fist, and Rocket Raccoon. The one that stuck out the most at the time was definitely Rocket Raccoon. I was a Marvel Comics fan, and I knew every other character, but who was Rocket Raccoon? Why is this D-tier trash panda on my screen? Now, this is 3 years before Guardians came out. The way those rosters came together is a mixture of Capcom choices and Marvel requirement. And Ultimate was the real start of Marvel's current video game strat. Marvel uses games as a way to expose people to new characters before they make a movie or a TV show about them. By the time Ultimate came out, these characters had not yet debuted in a movie. Hawkeye, Captain America, yes, really, Thor, X-23, Taskmaster, Deadpool, Doctor Strange, Dormammu, Iron Fist, Nova, She-Hulk, Super Skrull. This game was a big ad. This was just here so that mans would know more about these characters before Marvel threw them into a movie. It was already a tough sell to get people to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, to have a raccoon with a gun and a tree. Now it doesn't seem too silly, and 80% of these characters are in Marvel Rivals now, but a lot of these were chosen for future movies, and nobody knew who half of these characters were. The characters who were not setting up stuff for the MCU were Iron Man, Hulk, Shuma-Gorath, and the X-Men characters. A pretty important detail there. The game was popular, and you could make a whole video about the community still around Marvel vs. Capcom 3. At a high level, this game is a little bit silly. It's a little bit goofy. It's a little bit high-powered, but it's cool, and it looks good. This game has aura, and that will be relevant, trust me. So Disney pulled Disney and said no more fun. They pulled Marvel vs. Capcom games from the shelves, and you couldn't buy them from online game stores either. Decided to go their own way and use Marvel characters in Disney Infinity. But that game sucked, so it died, and Disney said, our bad. No more publishing games on their own. They stopped making their own games and went back to licensing Marvel out again. So, shortly after, we get an announcement of a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. This is a completely different world, though. Between Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, we got Avengers 1, Avengers 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War. Marvel was really mainstream and still heating up. This is before Infinity War. You would think that now would be the best time to make a new Marvel game. People lost it when they heard about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Emphasis on when they heard about it. Because then, everyone saw the game. That's okay. Plenty of games that look bad before release, or even after release. Let's just see what happens when the game comes out. And then the game came out. This game was a total flop. It didn't even hit top 10 in sales the week it came out. This game got outsold by GTA 5. 4 years after GTA 5 came out. Then Capcom speedran DLC and abandoned the game within 3 months. This is also the last Marvel vs. Capcom game, even though it's been 8 years, and it looks like we won't be getting another one. More on that later. So what went wrong? They really messed up in 3 main ways, because overall, this game isn't actually that bad. The gameplay is pretty cool, but that could not save them from, number 1, terrible launch and timing. The team behind this game is clearly talented because it takes a lot of talent to release a flop during the height of the MCU. This game came out the same year as Guardians 2, and it had Rocket and Gamora, and the launch still went terrible. This was a clinic in fumbling the ball. The biggest hurdle for the team in promoting this game was the game itself. I mean, look at the game, bro. Look at it. Just look. The demo looked so bad that the team had to come out and apologize and promise to improve it, because there's no way they could release a game with this version of Chun-Li's face. And they did. They did kind of fix it. Kinda. It just killed a ton of excitement for the game when the characters look and sound like this.
Nova, Major, get to the...
Then, they got unlucky, because at the same time, Dragon Ball FighterZ got announced. It's the same type of game as Marvel vs. Capcom, but has actual sauce. I mean, look at the animations. This game is beautiful. And it was coming out just a little bit after Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, so a lot of people decided to just wait it out. They could wait and see which one is better. This is a good way for your game to be dead on arrival. Games have got to sell right away to be worth it. Number 2, weak roster. This roster stinks. It's stinky. It's much smaller than launch Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and it's lacking a lot of the most popular characters and a lot of the characters with the most sauce. Instead, we got some cool characters like Ultron and Gamora. We also got the ad characters like Thanos. I mean, he wasn't cool yet. We hadn't seen him yet. This Thanos has no aura. And we got Captain Marvel. Yay!
Hey. How y'all doing?
Part of what stinks about this is Capcom clearly knew how to make good gameplay. Like Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's actually a kind of fun character to play, but we'd still rather have Storm or Magneto. Capcom made it worse by putting their foot in their mouth. You know, it didn't take a whole Batman-level detective to see that there are no X-Men characters on this roster. So GameSpot decided to just ask about it. Why aren't they there? And this was the response. If you were to actually think about it, these characters are just functions. They're just doing things. Magneto, case in point, is a favorite because he has an 8-way dash and he's really fast, right? So our more technical players, all they want to do is triangle jump and that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? Nova can do the same thing. Captain Marvel can do the same thing. Ultron can do the same thing. Go ahead and try them out. It functions, huh? A man's out here willing to die over these characters, and they're just functions. This is just tone deaf. It completely misses the attachment that people have for the characters. Why even have a crossover game with Marvel characters if the cool ones aren't here? But even though all these things sucked, they would be a way to make a game not be as successful as it should be. They might even be a way to make a game flop. But to truly kill a franchise in one game, you have to go beyond that. To get to the place where your game flops during peak Marvel and Disney decides to go to another dev in the future, you have to make a mistake so bad that there's no coming back. Kind of like giving your wide receiver the ball to throw in a trick play with the season on the line, that level of failure. No, I'm not still salty about that. The biggest failure of this game, the reason why it killed the series, was juice. It had no juice. Now, when I say juice, I don't just mean sauce or hype or even like good graphics. Now, this game does not have hype moments and aura, but that's not the problem. The real problem is that in addition to the lack of hype moments and aura, it lacks juice. Juice refers to all the little things that make your game feel alive. I talked about this in another video talking about how Fortnite used juice to beat PUBG. Juice is in the small things you have to do over and over again. It's one thing if the settings menu is boring. I mean, whatever. No one is booting up Marvel to look at display settings. But if the characters you have to look at every time you play the game look boring and their attacks look boring, it's really bad. And if it isn't really enjoyable to watch because the combos are boring to watch, because we're regularly just in the void, like what is this? It kills the hype for the game. Let's compare it with Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Looking at a character that's in both versions, Captain America. Look at the difference with the level 3. This is the equivalent of an ultimate, it's the biggest attack, and this is what we get. This stuff really matters, and it's really important when it comes to competing with other games. Let's look at the juice in Dragon Ball FighterZ compared to MVCI. Look at the character select. The menus, man, the menus. Not to mention these attacks. Like, why does Gamora look so bored? Her combos are actually cool, but she looks like she doesn't even care about it. And she's one of the characters with more sauce. Again, look at Captain Marvel. She looks bored half of the time. Her attacks lack a lot of the sound effects that previous characters would have had to emphasize. They neglected the small ways that the look and feel give flavor to characters and combos. And just listen to the difference between the wind theme in both games. One of these themes hypes up the winner, makes the loser even saltier, so you want to just go again. And one of these sounds like royalties-free music you'd hear playing behind some TikTok clip of the Avengers. This game is the definition of phoned in. I mean, how many games do you know with a massive modding project, not to add a bunch of characters, not to drastically change the gameplay, but to make it look and sound better? Now, like I said earlier, this game flopped, and Capcom moved on quickly. They decided to focus on Street Fighter V instead. And from what we know, they never even tried on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite in the first place. Leaks point to the fact that this game was both rushed and had a tiny budget. That is goofy.
A few people put it at being little over half the budget reserved for Street Fighter V's DLC plans. Not Street Fighter V the full game that was released in 2016, but the budget assigned to create DLC for it.
I get rushing a game out the door. There's been a lot of terrible instances, but it doesn't always end up bad. I mean, Super Smash Bros. Melee was rushed, and that game was a massive success. But you can't go fast and cheap. This game really just needed some higher quality models to survive out here. Dragon Ball FighterZ, on the other hand, was super successful and is still getting updates today. It completely scooped up the audience of fighting game players who liked Marvel vs. Capcom for its gameplay. I mean, just look at the hype moments and aura. It's not like this game is perfect. In a lot of ways, I like the gameplay better in MVCI. But Dragon Ball FighterZ doesn't look like an original Xbox Platinum hit. As far as killing the series goes, there was a little bit of hope recently. Remember how Disney pulled the other MVC games off of all digital platforms? Well, after some tactical complaining, a concerted community effort, Marvel gave the license to bring back the old MVC games in a collection. And with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond, a big community mod, MVCI sales spiked again. Now, there's an average of 30 players instead of 17. But for real, it was looking like maybe there was a shred of hope of reviving the series. Look, Capcom remembered how to make video games. Street Fighter VI is dripping with juice, and Marvel Rivals was huge, and so was Marvel Snap. Time for the golden age of Marvel games, and the perfect time for a Marvel vs. Capcom 4. We can just all pretend Infinite didn't happen. But it looks like Marvel hasn't forgotten. We got Marvel Tokon announced. Now, does this look familiar? Except this game has a better graphic style and a crazy amount of juice. Look at this. This game looks hype, and it has nothing to do with Capcom. Arxis, the people who made Dragon Ball FighterZ, is making it, and it doesn't look like it will play anything like Marvel vs. Capcom. Instead, it'll play a lot closer to Dragon Ball FighterZ. It looks like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was such a big failure that Marvel just gave up on Capcom, even after 20 years of making this franchise. The real big miss isn't even with Marvel Tokon, it's with what Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite could have been. It hit at the perfect time. Fighting game genre had finally caught up to like the rest of the world and saw that you didn't need to keep releasing new versions of the same game. You could just, add characters to the same game with DLC. We are seeing what Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite could have been right now with Marvel Rivals. During the peak of the MCU, they could have had a live service, cool Marvel fighting game that capitalized on the hype. Instead, we got this rushed, juiceless fart of a game that killed its franchise. Thanks for watching.